Hello and welcome, everybody. Happy Thursday. We're so happy to be here, right here in KGRA with all of you wonderful, beautiful people.
Hi, everybody.
Yes, I'm Deb and Arjay, and this is
Arjay.
Handsome husband, Arjay.
Oh, why, thank you, my dear.
Yeah. So we are blessed. We are always blessed. We get the most amazing people. We're blessed.
Yeah, somebody coming back tonight, too.
Yeah.
For the second time, Wallace Wagner Jr. was born in a small coal mining town of Logan, West Virginia. He received his bachelor's degree in West Virginia University in 1981. He did graduate studies at the University of Charleston and Marshall University. He gained a unique understanding of the Bible from 40-plus years of study and meditation. Wallace has a keen eye for looking at the Bible through a different lens. Having interest in crafts, examples, UFOs, UAPs, etc., the Great Pyramid, legitimate crop circles, eschatology, and I said that right this time, and the Bible, I think, Wallace's studies have led him to Egypt, Israel, and Portugal. In 2016, he had his own sighting of the white tic-tac variety near the town of Bedford, Virginia. This was a full year before the tic-tac clips were made known. This event caused him to critically reevaluate his conservative Christian teachings. He now realizes Jesus should be looked at more as a teacher and mentor, and the Bible, as written, is not quite what it's purported to be. He is a disciple of Jesus, but no longer subscribes to any organized religion. Wallace has a varied work history, including being a manager for 2 Fortune 500 companies. He has been a water plant operator, mailman, laboratory technician, farmer, coal miner, banker, and many other things it looks like here. EMT, soil conservatist, international salesman, and it goes on and on. He's just worked entirely for all his life. He's got many hats he's wore. So having appeared on numerous worldwide radio programs such as Coast to Coast, AM with George Norrie, and The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRochers, Wallace has been on over 35 online podcasts discussing his spiritual journey, including ours. His initial book, Crossing the Crevice, was introduced and featured on major radio stations in the U.S. and Canada, such as WABC in New York, KMOX in St. Louis, KIIS or KLLS in Los Angeles, and WBEN in Buffalo. But we're going to talk about his new book. His new book called Nucleus tonight. We want to welcome our guest, Wallace.
Yay. Hi, guys.
Welcome back, Wally. It's so
thank
good
you.
to see you again.
Pleasure is mine. It truly is.
We had a wonderful time with you last time, and we've been excited to have you back on. So your new book is out.
It
Can
is.
You show that? How exciting. What a beautiful book.
Yay.
Too. Yes, I
Wow,
just love
so
the looks
cool.
of that. Love it, love it. So where can people find your book?
Right now, my webmaster is on vacation. He'll be back hopefully this weekend. So there is no link on my webpage as yet. However, You can go to Amazon and just type in the Nucleus with my last name in the search bar. It takes you right to it.
Wonderful. Thank you.
So, Wallace, if I remember right, you grew up in a conservative Methodist family,
Yep.
and then you became a Baptist minister, right?
I became a Southern Baptist. I'm only ordained.
Oh,
I'm not. I don't
okay.
claim to be a minister
Okay.
or a preacher.
Okay.
Although I've preached before, but that's not my calling. I'm more of a teacher than a preacher.
Okay. But I guess I really want to point out is this, because you had an experience,
Mm-hmm.
You you had to change your way of thinking,
You're darn tootin'.
and that was not an easy thing to do. I mean, especially in your family and your friends, and so kind of explain that what you had to go through a little bit.
Sure. It's been 8 years to get to the point where I'm at now, since the sighting. I saw the sighting back in 2016, September, and it was the white Tic Tac variety right over my head.
Right.
It did cause me to, I always say, back up and re-examine a lot of what I had been taught, including physics, science, as well as the Bible, early church history, that kind of thing.
Right.
It took 4 years of research and, I guess, absorption of this material before I wrote my first book, Crossing the Crevice, in 2020.
Yeah.
I had a second book out in 2022 called Within Grasp. And this book just came out, The Nucleus, which is the third and final book of my trilogy. And in this book, I cover, a lot of topics. There's a little bit of duplication, but I kept it to a minimum.
Yeah.
If you want to know 30 direct and indirect references to UFOs in the Bible, I'll list them verbatim in the Nucleus. If you want to know 30 detailed and direct references in the Bible that really shows the Bible is man's work and not God's work, well, it's in there too.
Right.
If you want to find out if the Old Testament God is the same as the New Testament God, well, I really put some information in there that should open some eyes.
Right.
And lastly, perhaps the most important facet of my spiritual growth, and this has happened within the last, let's say, 2.5 years, I've learned to go inside.
Right.
And when I say that, I mean not prayer, taking what one has, exposing it to the heavens, but more in the line of meditation,
Receiving,
incorporating the Eastern religions, which really I've found out really overlapped with a lot of Jesus's upper tier teachings, which were left out of the canon because it was considered Gnostic.
Right.
It's amazing how much Hinduism and the Gnostics overlap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've learned to go inside, and I think that's really, I guess, the crux of this 8-year spiritual journey. That's why I termed the Nucleus as being the third and final book. Once you go inside and you start realizing about, the identification of your ego and knowing your soul and how all that works and what our real purpose is here, on this planet, I just don't see how I can go in any further than that. That is enough to chew on for multiple lifetimes.
Right. It's funny because I'm not funny. I'm not making funny, but it's interesting that even Eric Von Daniken, he was a man of faith, but
yes,
he started questioning things like people. So my point is, this is once you have a life experience like you had, seen something, it definitely changes you. You're not out to be famous. You're out to try to explain things that there's something else going on. And I think the information is out there. Now, what do you feel? Do you feel that Jesus Yeshua, did you think he did live in Egypt and maybe he went east and studied some of these things, like Reiki and healing? And I mean, what do you feel? How do you feel about that?
You know, that's a very good question, RJ. We get such a little bit about Jesus's life in the Bible, hardly anything
Right.
for his childhood years, and only really 3 years of his life. After that, from age 12 up to about age 30, there's a void.
Yeah, there's void.
So your question is certainly valid, and I'm one of those that believe that perhaps he did.
Yeah.
I mean, he did not incarnate, into Calcutta to change Hinduism, and then being that you might interpret him as being God of everything. I think he went where the need was,
Yeah.
and where he could be perceived as a legitimate teacher.
Yeah.
And what he taught, and I view him, by the way, more of a teacher than a savior.
Right.
But even Mary Magdalene called him Rabboni. I think in this world and in my reality that I save myself. I think we all save ourselves. We're all responsible for our salvation. But you
Right.
do that by utilizing the components of his teaching.
Yes.
And his teachings are actually universal. And that's something I really want to stress to our audience, that his teachings, love the children, love everybody, turn the other cheek.
Right.
All of that is signs of a type of love that's called agape or agape if you're here in the South. It's the actual way to pronounce the word is agape, but a love that is so great that we just can't understand it. And that's the way I view Jesus. And from that standpoint, pretty significant difference between the New Testament God and the Old Testament God.
Yeah.
Many significant differences.
I mean, it's also just common sense, right?
Sure.
How to live,
Sure. Without a doubt, Jesus knew of reincarnation, and it was mentioned in several books that are not, that were deemed not worthy of the canon.
Yeah.
And I always make a point in my books to put in, in the appendix, several Gnostic books. In the Nucleus is a repeat of the Gospel of Mary and the Gospel of Thomas, but I also put in the Gospel of Judas and the secret Gospel of James. Those are the four books I put in the appendix this time.
Nice.
Reading those, you will realize that we've been alive a long time.
Right.
We've had many, all of us, whether we're cognizant of it or not, have had other lives, and we'll have other lives ahead of us.
And the Bible it clearly mentions reincarnation. I mean,
in my
born
world
again.
It does. That's what born again is to me.
Yeah, born again.
When I read a story about Nicodemus, it has a completely different flavor now than it did for 60 years, of skimming over it. And that has happened so many times with the word now. I see something completely different than I saw in the past.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is the common. We're learning more and more that, even with ourselves, although I've always been a bit different anyways, but after coming into
that,
having these experiences that really make you rethink everything, your whole life is altered and there's no getting around it.
Once the mind is expanded, it never goes back.
Right.
Exactly. And it does seem to be common as well that right, wrong, or indifferent, the Bible is one of the first things that people start to examine.
Well, sure. It's been, as for me, as a lot of people, that's been your foundational truth. Everybody says, well, what does the Bible say? Well, look it up, and that's been our truth. And so many of us, and I was guilty just as much as anyone else, we want to be taught what's in there instead of reading it objectively and studying it objectively for yourself. And when you fall into that realm of being taught, it gets to be let's say, a little bit dangerous because you start falling into an agenda or a doctrine, and then that's what the church, quite honestly, has been since 1800 years ago.
Now, you'd mentioned in one of your bios or whatever that you were going directly to the Elohim and directly to Yahweh and Yeshua, and you listened into the original voice. Can you explain to our audience what you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I threw away the commentaries, the theologians' reports, the Sunday school booklets, and cleared my mind and read word for word and asked for it to be opened up to me. And in many ways, it was opened up to me. I saw things in a different light. I saw many truths that were there, but you just read over. And for example, Revelation 4, for example, how many times? And I'm a prophecy geek. I was really into prophecy.
Right.
How many times have I read that? And you read that John saw a door open up in heaven, and he went up into the spirit, and we just keep reading because he saw it. But that's a legitimate door. And he was called up into the spirit.
Right.
The spirit. And spirit is a word, one of those words you have to watch carefully because it can mean a craft, along with cherub, along with horses, along with wings, chariots of fire.
Chariots, yeah.
Yep.
Dragon.
He was called up into the spirit, and he was flowing around.
Right.
And I did not realize that for 60 years.
Yeah. So, in your opinion, who were the Elohim?
Well, I'm a quasi member of the Bara Foundation, and the Bara Foundation, B-A-R-A, that is the actual Hebrew word that was used when the earth was supposedly created.
Right.
It was a function of Bara. It was a division, not a creation. Now, with that in mind, the Elohim came, and there was a division on this planet between the Elohim and the Shemin, S-H-E-M-I-N. So this world was already here when the Elohim came, and there were already people on this earth. This word Bara is mentioned a lot, and about 85 to 90% of the time it means division. So our interpreters and translators really got this kind of screwed up.
Right.
It's an effort to make the God of the Old Testament, the God of the universe and everything else. But he wasn't. and to be honest, in my world now, and I'm speaking for myself, he isn't, wasn't, and isn't. The God of the New Testament is total spirit, total light, total love. The God of the Old Testament, oh boy, 77 people for sure saw him. The New Testament says no one sees God. I mean, we can start there. He was part of the Elohim, sure, but the Elohim consisted of multiple entities, and they came here. So if you came here, that means you came from somewhere.
Right.
That kind of usurps the theory that you're everywhere all the time if you're moving about from point A to point B, just like God coming down some 13 times in the Old Testament. I mentioned this before. How do you go down if you're already supposed to be there?
Right.
But a lot of people saw this God. He walked. He was jealous, and he actually was responsible for millions of killings. I'll use the word murder if that's okay. I mean, if you include the flood, that number goes exponentially higher. But the sad thing is, and this is never mentioned. What about innocence? What about little children?
Right.
Multiple places, he gives orders to destroy everything, including all the animals, all the women, all the children.
Right.
And these killings took place on the people's own lands. I mean, I have a real problem with that, especially when you compare, what Jesus says, bring the little children to me, and he loves them, and on and on. The difference is night and day. 180-degree difference.
Right. It's some of the ancient texts. I don't know exactly which ones, but it says when the flood was caused, this great deluge, that they actually wept because it was horrible. But obviously we all didn't die, but
No.
Most of us did. And like you said, but you said something interesting that in the New Testament you can't see God, but maybe we should say everywhere, anywhere you look, there it is.
I love it.
Yeah, anywhere you look, there it is.
I love it.
Yeah.
Part of what has resonated and rung true for me now is that, and this has come with slowly developing my meditation skills.
Yeah.
You realize if God is totally spirit and total light, you realize a couple of things. We create light when we meditate and when we pray.
Right.
And if God is spirit, you don't see spirits. Spirits don't walk as a human or have a beard, as the Apache Indians would say God had, or tempt people like he did with Abraham. This spirit encompasses everything. And you realize that when you look out your window, whether you're looking at a rock, a tree, a wind, a flower, that's God. We're all part of God.
Yep.
So what if God is some type of energy, plasmic energy that just exists?
Yes.
And we're all some part of a collective consciousness of that.
And through us,
Absolutely.
It experiences life. Through us. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same wavelength. So
I think so.
I am 68 and a half years now, and this realization has only hit in the last several years. I mean, you can see the change when I wrote my first book back in 2020 versus my last book that just came out. Talking about the Old Testament God not being God wasn't even in the repertoire when I wrote Crossing the Crevice.
Right.
And now my God is total light, total love, total spirit.
Right.
And I fall into the New Testament category, and I can't apply any of that to the Old Testament God whatsoever.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I can say a little more.
Well, I'm just
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Old Testament God too was a local God. You're not taught this in mainstream, Protestant churches today. He was a local God, either the God of the Kenites, which was located in the mountains of northern Saudi Arabia, called Seir. He's mentioned to have come from Seir in multiple books in the Old Testament. It also incorporated part of modern day Jordan.
Right.
And he could have been a war god, or he could have been the god of the Sashu, which is mentioned down in Egypt. But not too many scholars fall into that category. I go with the Kenites because we know for a fact they were copper smelters. And Yahweh received 1/70th. This is something else I get into in the Nucleus. 1/70th. Now, when I say he received 1/70th, what do I mean? I mean Deuteronomy chapter 32, verses 8 and 9 really exposed itself to me in the last 2 years. If you want a God, or if you choose a God, would not you want your God to be the Most High God? If you had a choice? Well, El, was the Most High God, without doubt. And this is mentioned in Deuteronomy. El was the father. El gave out an inheritance or a portion or an allotment, depending on your translation, to his children. His children numbered 70. 70 children. Yahweh got 1/70th. Now, in my world now, I'm thinking, well, no wonder he's jealous. He thought that one of his siblings got something more valuable, than perhaps he did. But this 70 number has shown up in the Ugaritic text, which were found in Syria in the late 20s. In your Bible, it may say the table of nations, where it says Shem got 26 allotments, Japheth got 14, and Ham got 30. That equals 70. That's the same 70. So each of these areas had significant boundaries around them. That's portrayed in Joshua 24. I mean, even Abraham's father served another god. You cross the Euphrates River, up you're in the land of it, yet another god. So we had all these gods, Baal, Asherah, Mot. The list goes on, and Yahweh was just one of them, a local god. And then somewhere around the 7th and 8th century, depending on who you believe, most all the scholars fall into the 7th or 8th century BCE. All these gods started morphing together into one god. And by the time we got to the 6th century BCE, there was one God, and it had to fit the Jewish male being superior. It was one male God. Now, Elohim meant both normally males, but it could mean male and female. And Asherah was a female. She was a god. She was a god. She was even venerated in the Jewish temple. We know this for a fact. So you have all those gods. They came, they left. Okay? All these gods, not only from right there in Israel, all around the world, they came, most of them taught, and then they left. They were visitors. Were visitors. And we interpreted them as gods because they had superior technology. They all pretty much could fly without that.
Right.
I've got a list of gods that can fly, but we won't get into that. Right? All these gods from all the other countries around the world, and here we have the God of Israel. Listen carefully. The God of Israel has become the God of the world and the God of the universes. And the way that happened was when Christianity started to spread, it went up a little bit north and through Europe and over here to the west. It did not go east. It did not go east at all. In fact, you can make the claim, and I do make the claim in the Nucleus, that places where Jesus traveled, all in and around modern day Iraq, Iran, Turkey, and so forth, there's very little Christianity. All the Christianity is pretty much up through, you don't see my hands moving, but up through Europe, out through Portugal, and over here to the Americas, thanks to the Catholics, the French and Spanish Catholics, the pilgrims and whatnot. Yeah. But it's funny that the Old Testament God, it's funny what sticks on the wall, but he has become the God of the universe, and God doesn't even have a sex. So why do we call him he? This energy, this all-encompassing, beautiful love God.
Right.
That's why there's no marriage in heaven. I mean, the answers are there. You just have to find the question to attach to it. I mean, how many times have you been asked, well, why isn't there marriage in heaven? Isn't my wife going to know me? That's the last thing going to be, you're thinking about then. You'll be, when you're in your spirit body, when you're back home, we're all aliens. Yes, we go back home.
Right.
And our home is not here. It's up there and out there.
Yeah.
That's where our home is. I'm talking too much, aren't I?
No. I just want to say that, so I want our audience to understand, before the Old Testament, what we're talking about is these folks that were called gods. They're not from here. That we know that. And plus, I want to ask you this, Deb. Now, he had 70 children. Obviously, he had several wives, right? Because one woman's not going to have 70 kids. That would take 70 years.
I certainly would hope not.
Unless they lived a very long time.
Well, they probably lived for a very long time, because when you're out in space, time does not exist.
Yeah.
It only exists for us here on this planet, the way it's interpreted and deciphered.
Right. And so it's do you believe in the Anunnaki?
Sure.
Okay, sure. So I encourage everybody, and if you have not seen this story or seen this information on the Anunnaki, please study it, because it's our true history. It's what we are, and it was what happened at one time, and it's all in these ancient texts. It's all in the Bible. They just say it a little differently. You just have to, like you said, you have to go back and you have to read it and meditate. And you have to get the right answers and get the right information that's trying to tell you, because the truth is hidden right in front of you, in my opinion. So
virtually all these traditions all around the world relate that there was a flood.
yes,
The question is, when, and then there's different gods that were involved, whether it's, Enlil, Enki is what you mentioned, but,
right.
Noah, for example, but, for a fact, people made it through the flood. And I'm questioning, did it really cover the whole earth, or did it just cover the Levant area around the Fertile Crescent?
Yeah.
Because I say that, you look at the Aborigines in Australia, they have a 40,000 year history that's unbroken.
Right. Yeah.
So they must have made it through there some way or another.
Right. Yeah, and I wonder if it hit South America, because of those great big gigantic structures that they had there that we can't create are scattered all over the place. I can't remember the name of the place.
Well, Baalbek, for example, in Lebanon.
Yeah.
With the largest cut stones in the world.
Right.
So, and it's funny that that's north of Israel. That's probably the land that Baal got.
Right.
And he was definitely a god, or you wouldn't have had all the interminglings. And it's like everyone else. He got a bad rap when it all, started morphing into one god, the jealous god, one out.
Mm-hmm. And I these people that came from heavens to earth, I mean, they were, in my opinion, great geneticists.
Oh yeah. There's a little DNA tweaking along the way. Yeah.
I think because
now I don't know, to what extent. I don't think anybody really does, but I'm pretty sure that they knew what DNA was, and the question is why. I mean, you can fall in line that we were made or tweaked, to mine gold if you want to go that route, but it could very well be that we've been tweaked either in an effort to make us a hybrid, maybe to move us to another planet that, the individual races would not do very well there, but a hybrid might be able to succeed.
Right.
Or, something else. Maybe their lineage is so old it needs rejuvenated. It could be several things.
Well, I always say if I see them, I'm going to kick them in the shins, because they did put some caps on our chromosomes, apparently. So we only live 120 years old, which means we have to keep, or at the max, you keep coming back. Because I'm your age, and I feel like I'm just starting to learn things. But
we learn every day. Right? We learn every day.
Okay.
Don't stop learning, please.
Right. Yeah, we don't. But it's like, I'm really where I'm at intellectually. I'm a teenager, and I just. But see, I've read these ancient texts, and it's in the Bible that we're only supposed to live the max 120 years old. But I think that was genetic tweaking too.
Well, we didn't get an apple off the tree of life, did we? We only got one off the tree of knowledge and
right,
good and evil. So, but it's an interesting life, isn't it?
Yes.
I think we as a society that we are opening our minds slowly. I think the pendulum is swinging. Maybe it's because we're in the age of Aquarius, but we can talk about this now, and we couldn't in the past.
Right.
And I think we do it well.
Yeah, we've come a long ways. And do you feel, Wally, I know I do, since about 2016, I just felt this big urge and push to not only find truth, but share truth. And I feel like, we have hit that point where evolution is really happening faster.
I think you're right, Deb. I think you're exactly correct.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting, and that's something that I always like to share with people because there's many like us. We're all three in our 60s, and find ourselves going, "Oh my gosh," you know, everything we learned all of our lives wasn't accurate.
Bingo. Bingo.
Yeah, so you have to, be a little excited for the younger people that are learning this when they're younger. Um, I know there's a reason for it, but I
Well,
wish we
it's
would
not
have.
just like one of the ancients, when they saw something that was life changing for them, they would make a petroglyph.
Mhm.
Yeah.
For example, all I can do is write books and be on programs and tell what I saw and how it's changed me. But if nothing, I don't expect anybody to change because of what I say, but I do expect to plant some seeds that perhaps can
Mhm.
germinate later.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I know I, for one, love listening to you because
Oh,
I
bless
listen
you.
to you and I hear my thoughts coming out of your mouth. And some of these thoughts, Wally, I was kicked out of Sunday school at like 5 years old
Really?
because none of it made sense to me. And one of the things that, I had an issue with was the Bible was violent. It bothered me.
The Old
So
Testament.
I didn't see that loving God that I felt inside.
But you were told about it though, weren't you?
I was told about it, but I didn't buy it. And I've always been that rebel. So it's all making sense to me now. But as you say these things, um, that helps me embrace, and I hope many others out there, my own truth. So I thank you.
Mhm. It for me, studying Yeshua, and I use the word Yeshua most of the time in the Nucleus because the letter J was not even out there when Jesus was on this planet.
Exactly.
J
Right.
didn't come into effect until the King James was really written,
Yeah.
but his name was Yeshua, and and I think it all has to come down to levels of consciousness, and that can be interpreted in a couple of ways. But I think the higher degree of consciousness you have equates to the more, let's call it, abilities that one may have, and that can be interpreted as perhaps telepathy or levitation or a bunch of things that were deemed miracles.
Right.
Because we are children, and I give every reference in the Nucleus that we are children. That's an issue I have even going to a mainline denomination now. When you read that Jesus Christ is the only Son of God, which is also in both the creeds, I have an issue with that because
Yeah.
that is not what my Bible says at all.
No.
Create light photons just like Jesus did when he transfigured
Yeah.
multiple times, by the way, but only one time made it in the Bible.
Right.
But we create photons and we are children. Now think about that. If this consciousness is out there in the universes, I say universes, they may be stacked this way, they may be stacked this way. I don't know, but it's out there. But this consciousness, I mean, you can't gain it all in one lifetime.
No.
No, no, we've had other lifetimes. I want to stress that so much that the reincarnation was okay in the early Christian church. Clement of Alexandria, Origen. Origen was told he had the brightest mind of the early church fathers. It wasn't until Rufinus started doctoring all of his writings that he got watered down big time. But I kept or found two of the original ones, and I put them in the Nucleus, and you can see his take on reincarnation, and
Right.
that was okay in the early church up until about 300 A.D. It got weeded out. So all we're taught now is that we have this one life. When you die, you'll be resurrected in bodily form, the same body you have now. It'll be perhaps you'll be, I don't know, in your early 30s, the epitome of health. You won't have any blemishes, no diseases, nothing. And you'll be walking on streets of gold with Jesus wiping away the tears, you know,
Yeah.
infinity. And I just don't buy any of that anymore. I don't
It's
buy
a,
it.
That's an interesting quote right here from Kimberly. Kimberly,
Question.
our question. I truly believe that we do have a say in what we want to experience.
Sure. I
And,
believe that too.
and
I believe it was a joint decision for me
yeah,
to be here right now
yeah,
based on weaknesses that I have in places I need to develop, more consciousness in.
yeah. So, whether you call that a religious thing or not, it's just I think that's just the way it is. You have a say in your life, but there may be like teachers and guardians, guides that help you say, well, maybe you need to do this, or you want to let's set this up this way. So
we are on the same frequency, brother. We are on the same frequency.
Right.
But she's asking, is this theory from a religion? I think it's way before religion.
Yeah, I would probably go along with that. I know I've read several books from psychologists and psychiatrists that have done, regressions and whatnot, and they pretty much all fall into the category that A, we've been alive, B, you'll have a guide when you die, C, everything that you've done, right and wrong, will be presented to you. What you've done wrong or what you've said to somebody, you will know how that affected the other person because you'll see it through their eyes and what they felt and how they interpreted it. So it comes right back on you like a mirror, so to speak.
Right.
That's how we learn. But it's all bathed in love.
Yeah.
And there's many, 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 many more lives because time does not exist. It really doesn't. We are spiritual beings.
Mm-hmm. And trust me, there are jobs in the spiritual world. Being a guide is one of them, I think. And you're going to be told, well, you're in charge of this, guiding this person. Can you let's see how you do? And I truly believe that's part of our evolution. We get that.
I do too. Yeah. I do too.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is, it's if there's 9 billion people on the planet now, we're all brothers and sisters, whether we're cognizant of that or not.
Right.
And the second thing I would say is that no two of us are at the same point on our individual journeys.
Yeah.
It's a plethora of points. People are behind me, and I know a lot of people that are in front of me. but there again, we've all got a lot to learn.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the beauty of it, that it's ever continuing.
Yep.
It's ever going, and you have always something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. I'm glad forgiveness is there as mercy and all of that. So I'll need a lot of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Made a lot of mistakes, but I know I'm not going to be crucified for it, and I'm certainly not going to hell for it. Right. So,
yeah, we're definitely not perfect on this plane.
No, we're meant to make mistakes, and we're that's how we learn. That's how we grow.
Yes.
I want to address this, Kimberly's comment there, just real quick, and you guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. When I read something like that, my first thought is religion is something that is taught to us. Knowing that's that spirituality within. And when Wally says we go within, we know these things. When we meditate, we get the answers. We're born with those answers because we're a part of the collective consciousness. So if it's not being taught to you, through books and all of that, but you just know it, that's where your real truth lies. So
well said, sister.
Thank you. But feel free to adjust that or add to, take from.
I'm not sure I can. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like you taught me, when you meditate, you receive. When you pray, you ask.
That's the way I view it. That's what resonates with me. Yeah. And in the church setting, you're only taught to go in to out. Everything is going out to God,
Yeah.
giving thanks, asking for this, that type of thing. But
Mhm.
it's almost the reverse. I'm
Right.
telling you, for meditation, is taking everything that is out there, realizing your place in that everything, and realizing that you're an active part of that everything.
Love you too, Terry. Good night.
All right. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So, I mean, I now it's coming back to me that when we had our last show, that we were definitely on the same page about a lot of things, and it ended up this way. It ended up us agreeing about a lot of things, So, uh, and feeling the same way. And I think that's what this universe is doing, is bringing like-minded people together, and so we can get this message out. And I just makes me so happy to know that people are doing this all over the planet, all over the universe. They're all getting together and, going for the same thing, going for the same goal, or loving one another. And that's what it's all about. I mean,
That's
even though we see it on TV that it's not good, they want you to see that. I think behind the scenes,
No.
I think there's a lot of great stuff going on.
I make the comment in the Nucleus, 90% of the stuff on TV is poison.
Yes. Yes.
And what you see with your eyes can take you down a road of discontentment, and you'll realize you're in a field of illusions.
Right. Exactly. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. What we see and what I hear and what I talk to people, it has nothing to do with any of that. Nothing. So
We're learning, aren't we?
yeah.
We are learning, and for me also, I've learned that all this, what we call sin, it really comes through the eyes, and it's a part of the ego. The ego in so many people that don't even know that it's there, let alone acknowledge it. But the more you get in tune with accepting that it is there and trying to control it, the more you realize a lot of that is what Jesus was trying to say in the Gnostics. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. This ego is what makes us want things we don't need, and then we want bigger things, we want better things, all these physical things that you see with the eye, not the spiritual things that you can't see, but the physical things all around us, new cars, houses, boats, airplanes,
Right.
that has nothing to do with developing your soul,
Right.
and increasing your consciousness. They're distractions. And people have asked me, well, have we gone backwards? I mean, a lot of people back in the ancients, they seem to have had a better connection to these spirits and to these gods than what we have now. And the answer is yes, they probably did. They don't have all the distractions that we have now, whether it's cell phones or TVs or computers or stereos, as you see behind me. I'm just as guilty as it.
Well, we live in that age.
I mean, but no, it's the more you realize who you are and our place in the universe, and that you are spiritual, not physical. These are mere vessels, which gone in a matter of years, as you mentioned, RJ.
Yeah.
It's distractions. It can take you down a road of destruction. And I think our Eastern brothers and sisters already know that. And I'm painting with a larger brush, including Buddhism and Hinduism, etc. And I think they realize that. I mean, you go to a church in India, it's a vacant building. There, you go to be one-on-one with the Brahmin.
Right.
I mean, you go to a church here now, if you're going to a church that actually has people in it, it's got drums and guitars and everything, coffee shop and it just noise. I'll just say noise.
Yeah.
It's not anything but quiet.
Right.
So their view is, in my view, 1,000 years advanced. I mean, they were here 1,000 years practicing that before Christ came to Israel. So maybe that's why he did not incarnate there. Maybe that's why he traveled there. I mean, you mentioned that earlier. I think perhaps he did go to India. We know Thomas went to India.
Right.
That's pretty well settled. But it's amazing what sticks on the wall, and I've said that before. And what is stuck on the wall seems to be pretty much the same doctrine and agenda that the commentaries, the theologians, the pundits, the teachers, all pretty much go by. And if you allow yourself to be absorbed in that and let that become your truth, then you're going to go through this lifetime cheated. I think that's the best way to say it. Cheated.
Right. Wow, time just flies, man.
I know.
I'm telling you, time flies. But we've got maybe 4 minutes? I think.
Let's see.
5 minutes. So.
Yeah, well, no, that
4
was a few minutes.
That's 4 minutes.
So we're getting down there.
Yeah, so I always have this feeling that even though those Anunnaki and people of the past and the New Testament people, whatever you want to call them, Old Testament, they were very far advanced, like we talked about. But spiritually, were they? I mean, come on, I'm not. They warred a lot, and they.
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
The ultimate question is all these beings. That's plural. They don't all look like us. That's because, even our friend Michael has seen the Mantis being.
Yeah.
But that's why this religion thing, and I'm terrible with words, is probably the biggest impediment to disclosure. It would cause panic for the way people have been taught that we were made in God's image. Well, we were made perhaps tweaked or perhaps made in the image of the people that came here, but in the image of God, we're a spirit. So we don't even have a body. I mean, so the spirit could reside in any living entity, whether it had 2 arms, 4 arms, 6 arms, or was, 10 feet tall or looked like a reptilian. I mean, if you have a sentient being, it's the spirit inside that continues to live. The body is simply there so you can feel emotion, and so you can learn, touch, sense, smell, that kind of thing. It's a learning school, and we don't graduate with one life. I hate to tell you, but
that's right.
many lives, and I'm 100% certain I have been alive before, and I had a say-so in this life that I have now.
Yeah,
without a doubt, and I'll have a say-so. I'm not to be overruled, but I'll have a say-so in the next life, and it may not even be on this planet. I may do something better than this 1-star hotel. I mean, there's 3 and 4-star hotels out there in the universe, by the way. This is not a prime location.
Right.
No, it's not. There's hate and there's deaths and there's murder and I could go on and on. This is not a prime, hotel.
It's a difficult place to be.
I just had an idea. I don't know if you would entertain it. Maybe we could have both of you and Michael on the same show. That would be so cool.
I've been on a show with Michael. Okay. Yes, he's the real deal. By the way,
So are you?
Well, so
the real deal. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you are too, and we appreciate you being on
bless you.
We love both of you,
and we love both of you. Yes.
Bless you
so
both.
much, and good luck with this book. Everybody,
thank you very much.
Hold it up again.
Hold it up
one more time.
Hold it up one more time.
And I know your books are on Amazon.com, so everybody will find them. I did post. I posted your website within Grasp. Everybody check him out.
I make $0 off the books. All the proceeds that I get go to endhunger.org.
Beautiful.
Bless you.
Beautiful.
Bless you. You're amazing. Amazing, Wally. Thank you for
Thank
being
you so
on
much.
With us.
Humble
Can't
me.
wait to do it.
Both of you. Bless you. Peace and love to you both.
Both to you too.
Yes.
You family, everybody.
To you.
Thank you.
And we'll talk again.
Okay.
Everybody have a fantastic week, and until we meet again, may all of your awakenings be mystical.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Wallace.